I have to admit, I feel so stupid. For the last few years, I've been thinking that the homelessness in Los Angeles was a problem, a crisis, a disgrace, something that we're all working towards improving, removing, helping people, lessening, maybe even making go away. And I drove around, particularly this week, and noticed that the homeless encampment on Robertson was moved to a side street, and this one was moved there. And I've come to realize, and I did some research on it, that I'm totally wrong. This is the new growth industry of Los Angeles. In a city and a state where we're chasing out tax-generating businesses like movie manufacturing, like movie production, TV production, restaurants shutting down, Los Angeles in particular and the state have come up with a new industry to create jobs and, more importantly, campaign contributions and money for politicians. The new growth industry, particularly in Los Angeles, is the homelessness industry. I'm going to show you why, unfortunately, how that works out. Here's a guy who didn't take no for an answer. This story got really national notice on how things are broken in Los Angeles, really becoming the joke in the country. The New York Post reports a story of a guy who right next to the freeway just built his own house. And this house has a garden, it has a barbecue, it has working electricity. And so it's not just like your thing on the side anymore. We actually have, you look at it, it looks like a house. Now, I don't know how long it would take to build a house with a garden and electricity and a barbecue. I imagine days. Nobody stopped the guy while he's building it right there. Theoretically, if the fire's there, that'd be dangerous for cars going by. Theoretically, it's some sort of emergency access road, or it could be a park that people ride their bikes on. But no, this guy's just building his house there. And I think we're seeing this increasingly, that our city is just not enforcing the laws, and therefore with people taking public property for their own good. And maybe out of desperation, I can sympathize to some degree. But at the end of the day, that's no way to run a city. It's no way to run I think, a long-term success story. Continuing on the homelessness problem, which is really becoming an industry now. And so here's the beginning of digging deeper in your pockets. Here's a story. Homeless people need more than a house. They need something money can't buy. And so we have this article by Matthew Barnett. It's an opinion piece. He is a pastor, but he's the type of there's two types of pastors. There are those that are focused on the spiritual needs of their congregants, and there are other ones who are really political pawns. They get their power by making sure their spiritual program aligns with the powerful politicians. And here's a guy who does that. They end up becoming a nonprofit that gets grants and programs from taxpayers to build programs that never do the job. And they're never as effective as those old little churches and pastors who raise money on their own for their congregants and help people. This is the type of pastor who thinks the solution is always the government and really wants his congregants to worship the government rather than God. Because the solution, he's saying, is that as a clergy, he needs to get with the city and the state, which are failing and the source of the problem. And he's saying that we need to work with them. And more than that now, not just build housing, we need to give them food. We have to have money for social programs, not spiritual programs, social programs. And so we've done this, nonstop. But again, this is just saying the bar higher. Politicians are going to tell you they can't just build houses. The problem is holistic and more detailed, and this is another way to get deeper. Another way they're going to get deeper into our pockets is we have a federal court decision now, and one of these nonprofits in LA took our city to court. The federal judge says that the LA officials, when they threw out what we would call trash on the streets, right? You would look at this and say, wow, this is a trash. It's a health hazard. It's blocking the sidewalk. It's denying our kids walking to school. It's denying our ability to enjoy the city that we pay for. Well, the judge said that that's their personal property, but it's also their records. In the case of them being removed, they're being cited for violating law. And the judge says, really, all that junk isn't junk. That's their proof. And when you throw it away, there's no record of it. Now, the judge didn't say you can video it or take photos of it. He's telling the city that when we now remove somebody from the street, we need to save their stuff for some period of time, I guess, and allow them 30 days or so to access it. So we're going to create a new industry that's going to store their stuff And these judges are going to, I'm sure, say you didn't save enough, you moved it too roughly, you broke things, you didn't organize it properly. Just another never-ending way for one judge to change the policy here in our country. And we're going to end up with spending more money. Speaking of spending more money on the issue of homelessness, LA's in hot water because we've wasted money. Statewide, we've wasted $24 billion. You have no idea where it is. And so another federal judge here in LA, one trying to solve the problem, says that LA needs to provide an audit as to where the money went. Now, it's fascinating in America, we don't audit our government. We don't audit the federal government. We don't audit the Department of Defense. Last month, they admitted they've lost $800 billion. We have no audit. We spent $60 billion to Ukraine this week. We have no idea where the money's gone to date. There's no record of it. There's no report that shows where money goes. And so here you have a judge, maybe fairly, and you would think with all the city employees, somebody's job would be to audit these expenditures, provide records, provide proof where the money goes. Of course, there's nobody. The money just disappears because it goes in the hands of donors and political advocates and so on. So here this judge is now forcing a $2.1 million audit, which I don't know if that's good news or bad news. Are we going to actually find the results? Or is this another $2.2 million wasted as we try to figure out what's happening with the money that we're spending on the homelessness? And the answer is going to be, we're never going to find out why. It's going to be like all the other spending government. We're never going to know where. Why is that? Well, I'm going to show you the industry, and I came across this news bit this week, the industry that's created for the homelessness. Now, this is from a foreign source, not from American source, The Guardian, which is in the UK, revealed how companies made $100 million clearing California homeless camps. So, I thought, and I was on the neighborhood council at one point, we had, city employees, sanitation employees who would have to clean up. And some of these people make a lot of money. I mean, there's sanitation employees who make, $100,000 or more when you count in their benefits and such. But now we actually have contractors that get paid lots of money to do this. And these are the same contractors that clean up spills and sewage spills and hazmat stuff and all kinds of other issues. The major industrial companies now. And so we see the government spending is going up and up and up. And so this is now one of the growth industries in Los Angeles is cleaning all this stuff up. In fact, I was really interested to look up one of the companies because you want to kind of tell who people are by their websites and the way they do business. And so I went to one of the largest companies, which is ocean-blue.com. And it was interesting that they have this rotating video of their different jobs. They cater to municipal clientele. They deal with tanker overturns. They deal with all kinds of other things. When you go to their services, I found it interesting that other services, the second one, in marketing, you'd put your first one here. So their main business is emergency response. But of all the things they do, and they do 6 different services, number 2 is homeless encampments. That's how big that business is, and I'm sure profitable. And so you see these messes. These are the company you call in to clean up that particular mess. $100 million. Now, here's the thing I'm going to tell you. I don't know this, but I'm sure it works out that way. That this company, I am sure, pays lobbyists. I'm sure they give campaign contributions. I'm sure that they hire children and friends of politicians. That's how municipal companies work. That's just their business model. That's their format. And I wanted to also show the cities. It's so interesting that their website is done by Squarespace. I just kind of find it interestingly modest for a company that makes the kind of money they make. But elsewhere on the services, I showed all the different cities that they do business in. It was fascinating to me, the breadth of their services and how industrial they are with these big trucks. I guess it should be. I mean, the kind of things that they do. But they had a list of all their cities that they do business in that included LA, Long Beach, Covina, Pico Rivera, Redondo Beach. So this is a huge company, and this has now become a big corporate business of cleaning up our homeless. That's not done. We have a bunch of city employees. They're not doing this. We now contract out. How much do we spend? Nobody knows. Do these people pay off politicians? I don't know. I'll bet they do. If you ask me to guess, I did some research on it. I'm not really a a research and a journalist, but I'm sure they do. That's how all companies in Los Angeles end up with contracts. That's how all companies in the city of Los Angeles and the state of California end up with contracts, is by making sure that there's grease on the skids to help them get the job through quickly. And so what's the answer? Well, I would say the answer always is holding politicians accountable. We have elections coming up. Vote to hold accountable the people who are doing a bad job. One of those people, I think, is our governor, Gavin Newsom. And while I don't know that we'll ever actually get him out, I think the people who control the state are the ones who count the votes, not the ones who actually vote. But I still think that we should do our best. There's been a petition qualified for his recall a second time. I think we should all sign that. I'm making copies available at live events I go to. And you go to rescuecalifornia.org or text or email me. I'd be glad to send you a link that has and it's hyperlinked to my email down below. I'll be glad to send you a package of information to hold him accountable for the waste and the problems in our state, particularly homelessness and as it affects real estate. What do you think? Am I being too harsh on the county? Am I being too harsh on the city? Too harsh on California? Let's see your comments. Like this, don't like this, subscribe, send me a comment. As always, I'm at Bill Gross Probate on social media. You can call, text, or email me. And as always, make today your best day ever. Thank you so much.